Welcome to ListenABLE podcast with Dylan Alcott and
Angus O'Loughlin is my
G'day,
voice.
brother. This is a podcast for absolutely anybody, disability or not, normalizing disability through stories, emotional, humorous connections, so people can understand what it's like to live or be associated with somebody that has a disability.
Now, we should also point out if you're listening to this on the podcast, which is what this show is designed to be, and maybe you're hard of hearing, you've got a hearing aid, you're hearing impaired, we are also releasing this as a video form. So we're looking at the cameras and waving to them right now because we'll have this on YouTube as well. So with captions, with closed captions.
Yeah.
So it's available for everybody with disability.
And you know what? That's why I love this podcast, because it's not about interviewing famous disabled people that you know. It's just about talking about anybody who has a story that wants to share their story to try and help break down some stigmas and barriers, but also normalize disability for a lot of people. And our guest today is someone that I met a few years ago. I run a music festival called Ability Fest, and we opened up to have volunteers come on the day. We had about 500 people volunteer, and only 2 of them had a disability that volunteered.
Wow.
And those 2 got a job. They worked for free, and they actually worked on the grounds, showing people around, talking to the artists, liaising. And one of them was a gentleman called Oliver Hunter. Now, Ollie came up to me. He's a bit of a fan, but he was also a bloody legend. And he was telling me that he loves normalizing disability through the media. In one particular, he is an aspiring comedian. And Angus, you met him and thought he would be a great man to get on the show.
Yeah, I met him at your event. Once again, if you've heard this podcast before, it's the same event we've talked about a bunch of times.
Remove the Barrier campaign.
Which I was the MC for, and I got to meet Ollie in person. I thought he was amazing, and since chatting to him, we're like, this guy's got to be part of our first episodes of podcast. And would you like to introduce yourself officially?
Well, I'm Oliver Hunter, aka Ollie, as Dill has already said. I love music festivals, love music. I'm an aspiring comedian, love sport. I've played sport, go to sport. I love going out, to parties, socialising. Love the odd beer, and the vodka and gin. So I love travelling as well. I've travelled a bit, so I like to get out there and do as much as I can and meet as many people as I can, and hopefully create some good opportunities for myself.
And what is your disability?
I have cerebral palsy. I was born with CP, and I was diagnosed when I was about 18 months old.
Okay.
So where were you born, Ollie?
I was born in Mildura, in Victoria. And I was, I was born a month premature, which at the time wasn't a big deal. I think a lot of babies can be born premature. And then when I was about 18 months old, as I said, I wasn't sort of sitting up properly, wasn't walking. And my parents went to the doctors and they said, and at the time, 23 years ago, CP wasn't the most common thing. So they were like, well, what's this?
Especially in a country town.
Yeah, well, that's it. And by that point, I think we'd moved to Albury, where I've grown up pretty much my whole life. And there was not a lot of research, knowledge about it. And Mum and Dad were just thrown in the deep end. And that's sort of, we've operated from the deep end.
Ever since.
Right.
So people probably don't know what cerebral palsy is.
Me included. Sorry, I didn't want to sound like...
That's all right.
I know a little bit more about motor neuron disease. I was reading about this week, but cerebral palsy,
so that's
no
why
idea.
we have Angus here as an able-bodied person who has to ask questions that you and I might already obviously know the answers to, because we live in the world of disability.
Yeah.
So,
and I believe I'm informed, so I think I'd be in a top percentile of people who understand disability.
Definitely.
And here we are.
I think, so CP is a neurological disability, meaning it's a condition, so you can't catch it. I think people...
Oh, thank God, because we were making out just before.
Yeah. I think that's happened a couple of times. People are like, oh, how can you get it? Is it genetic? And it's like, no, it's all condition, neurological, meaning at some point, again, for someone that wants to be an advocate and a media personality, I don't know the science behind it, but as far as I know, at some point, a bit of oxygen to my brain was cut off, and that has caused a bit of a sort of a dark spot in my brain, and then that's caused the CP, meaning that as I can't walk, I use a wheelchair for the majority of my mobility. I can walk with some support in terms of like a rail or a walking frame. I can do it for physio, but in terms of functional day-to-day, it's all in the chair.
So you got full feeling in your leg. Is it if I was to put a needle in your toe?
Yeah, it's all feeling. There is a little bit of less circulation, but in terms of feeling, I can feel everything. I broke my leg when I was about 14. I could definitely feel that.
Yeah.
And also my hand-eye coordination can be affected. My vision is affected from that as well. I wouldn't call myself vision impaired, but it is affected. And because it's all neurological, everything is affected. And I think that's people see me and say you can't walk. Is that it? But no, it's everything.
So some ways that happens is if the umbilical cord is wrapped around the baby's throat and the oxygen's cut off, sometimes that can cause cerebral palsy. Or if there's a complication in birth, or they don't know, and they probably don't find out till you're like 18 months because you don't show signs of it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I have a damaged spinal cord, right? So from everything below where my spinal cord is damaged, that is what is affected. So I'm a incomplete paraplegic, but pretty much complete. However, with cerebral palsy, it kind of, because it's a brain, I guess like a brain injury or something wrong with your brain, it affects kind of everything, doesn't it? Including for some people on different levels, like speech and things like that as well.
And I think I count myself sort of lucky that my speech isn't genuinely affected. I like to talk, so that's always
It's handy.
Sometimes I wish it was affected.
Yes, don't worry. My mum does as well. Don't worry, there are times where my brothers are like, "Shut up, we've had enough. Please stop talking. You've had too many beers." All right. So, but again, there are different levels. So I would consider myself sort of moderate. There are some I've met a lot of people that they're CP. They're in a power electric wheelchair. They can barely move can't move their neck, or they can barely do anything for themselves. I fairly independent. I can do a lot of things for myself, and that I do count myself lucky for that. That I'm pretty able considering.
So the umbrella of cerebral palsy is just
Huge.
it can
massive.
be someone who's mute, unable to walk,
Non-verbal.
non-verbal, to someone who maybe has some slight difficulty in life and has been diagnosed.
One of the best examples I'd like you to touch on, Ollie, is when you see somebody in an electric wheelchair, Angus, who might be spasming, maybe frothing at the mouth, can't talk, and everybody goes up to them and is like, "Hello, how are you?" Because they assume that person has an intellectual disability as well. They just have severe cerebral palsy, and they are full-minded.
Okay, so just physical.
So they can't
So
communicate.
they're being talked to like a baby.
But they can. So,
Wow.
it must be hard for those people.
Yeah.
Ollie.
And by the way, even if someone does have an intellectual disability, don't talk to them like that.
Yeah.
Like, they're a human being.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Exactly.
I used to work in the field as well of support with a provider, and we focused on IDs and brain injuries. And, yes, they might be a bit slower in their speech or in their capability of what they understand, but they're a
Person first and foremost.
person. So talk to them like you'd talk to Angus or Dill, because they're fully functioning intellectually. Apparently,
I'm sure there's some people, but the minority of people.
I think
would
you were
be in that.
saying apparently we are fully functioning brains.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, mate.
So that's the I talk to them. I talking to you guys like you're a normal person.
Yeah, of
And I
course.
think I used to always find that with the support staff at the provider, I'd pull them up all the time. You talk to me like you would talk to your parents or your brother. Why are you talking to the client like they're a 4-year-old who can't speak for themselves?
I met a young bloke the other day who's non-verbal, 22, electric wheelchair, cerebral palsy, makes programs video games
Wow.
There you
by
go.
typing via his mouth.
Yeah.
That's
But everyone thinks he can't.
Can't do anything.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
So what was life like growing up with cerebral palsy? What did you find immediately struggles as a young kid?
I think for me it was definitely tough, but in the beginning, it's all I knew. So I got my first wheelchair when I was probably 4. Had my first operation when I was 3. One of my first memories of being a human on this earth was laying in a hospital bed with a broomstick plaster cast, which means I had a stick in between my legs to keep them sort of separated, to stretch, to they lengthen.
Try and fuse the bones.
They
or
lengthened muscles.
something?
And also because cerebral palsy, correct me if I'm wrong, Ollie, but your brain, you say that, so Angus, you and I would say straighten your arms, so we do.
Mhm.
But cerebral palsy, the brain gets in the way and it spasms, so it can't. Is that right?
So my actual term for my CP is spastic diplegia, which means my muscles are always tight. So my length of my muscles is always short, even in my arms, especially in my legs. So one of my surgeries, like I said, was they lengthened my hamstrings. They actually got in there and cut my muscles to lengthen them. And that actually caused some severe nerve damage. I had to shower in a shoe for 18 months after that. That was a mad side effect. And for an 8-year-old, that's a lot to go through. So that is one memory that I always have that was pretty brutal.
What kind of shoe was it?
I had to shower. I was actually in a Globe.
A globe? I was going to guess
shoe.
globe.
One of the old
wants one.
skate shoes,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
from the 90s.
Yeah, that's all I wanted as a shoe when I was about 8.
Cool.
And then I got it, and then had to shower in it, so I wrecked it. But so I was in a Globe and that was hard because you couldn't touch it. You just couldn't touch. You couldn't even look at it really.
Yeah.
It just hurt that much, so that was stuff that difficult was hard, and then but I had a great family. I got 3 younger brothers, 2 great parents, great extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins. And they were able to support. It was all hard for everyone. It was hard for them, especially when I was younger. They didn't know what to do, and it was kind of just get through it. So yeah, I had a good time growing up, but there were some difficult stuff medically. And then when I hit school, I was always the only kid in a wheelchair. I was the first one at primary school, first one at high school. They actually rebuilt part of my high school for me to.
That's the second time I've heard that schools have adjusted to individual students with disability, which is great to hear. What about when you said you were the only one at school, and this is in the 90s, late 90s?
No,
early 2000s?
Early 2000s. I'm 24.
Okay, so
yeah.
sorry, I'm old.
Yeah.
How do you communicate with people living in Albury? You're in a smaller community. You're the only person at your school with a disability or in a wheelchair. How do you communicate with other people to find out, to normalise your disability, to ask questions around it? Where did that communication come from?
I think for me, and Dill's the same, or as far as I know, you just get in there. Just do it.
Okay.
Just go to school. And the other kids will ask questions. And as I said, the school, they knew I was coming from when I was in grade 4. So they had 4 years to get ready for the construction side of things. They put a lift in, they put a massive ramp in.
Oh.
But as you said, it's for the individual student, but once it's in there, it's for everyone.
Yeah.
So kids on crutches.
But what about chatting to people though? Did you go into the people with cerebral palsy community group on Facebook or something? Did you?
In Albury, there is. I've never really been part of anything like that. As opposed to if I was from a metro spot, Melbourne, Sydney, wherever, there weren't really any groups that I was part of in terms of kids with CP. So I was in the mainstream school with all the able-bodied and typically developed kids, and I just made friends with them. And as I said, I had some really good friends that they just went, yeah, cool. There was some exclusion I remember I had one experience where everyone was getting invited to this kid's birthday party, and he was a mate of mine, a pretty good mate, I thought. I didn't get invited, and I was like, why haven't I been invited? So I just went up to him because I'm arrogant, and I said, mate, why haven't I been invited to your party? I said, I thought we were good friends. All our other friends are getting invited. Even if we're not best mates, all my other mates are there. Mm-hmm. Like, I won't even talk to you. And he goes, oh, I've got steps at my place. So I thought you wouldn't be able to come. I was like, well, there's 10 boys here. I think we can figure 2 steps out to your front door. Yeah. So I said, I'm coming to your party. I'll see you Saturday.
But once again, that's not him judging you on your friendship. That's him just not understanding your disability.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's a little moment where you go, right. And then you put yourself into the normal situation of the party with the kids. And then the next party, when we all turned 18 and you're 12, I got invited. I still didn't get invited to a couple of ones, but there was probably 3 or 4 that I was into. Yeah. And it was all good. So I think for me, I was always just trying to show that I'm just like you guys. I'm in class. Yeah. I have a teacher's aide. I remember I used to have someone, like a support officer there to help me write and stuff because my writing was always difficult. But they were just there as well. So they got to know the kids got to know them, and it was all fairly straightforward.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because you're a shit bloke.
Yeah, well, that too. I did clear that up. I was like, I think I'm a pretty good bloke, aren't I?
Did you get bullied at school?
I was lucky enough to not get directly attacked or targeted. As I said, there were some exclusion, but not in terms of no one sort of targeted me directly and made fun of my disability. But there were a couple of moments where kids just didn't understand, so they would say the odd thing. I think there was always one where it was like, because as I said, my disability is spastic diplegia, so spastic has been a word that has been used as a sort of derogatory term So a couple of times I'd hear that, or I was called that for a completely different reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say, look, you can't really say that because I technically am a spastic.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. So, yeah.
Are there terms that you have heard, or you know of that do offend you when talking about your CP?
So I don't love spastic. I don't love cripple.
Mm-hmm.
Some people I know own cripple and use it as a word that they sort of empower themselves.
And like you said, you're in comedy. I'm sure that's all mostly self-deprecating. That
Yeah.
would be something to try and,
Yeah.
you know, some comedians might use.
So yeah, and again I've had to pull a couple people up and I said, look, I don't love that word. I understand that some people with disabilities do, because I had a time where someone, a typically developed person, said, oh, I know a guy who loves the word, like a guy in a chair who loves the word, and he owns that word. I said, well, that's good for him,
Yeah.
but I don't love that word.
No two cases are the same.
I don't like it either. Yeah.
So I think for me it's always about. I also don't love like the word disabled,
Okay.
because I kind of go, that's not for a person. Like disabled, like you disable a machine. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Like,
so you're not pushing away the fact that you are in a wheelchair, have CP.
Yeah.
You just don't like the actual
so
word disabled.
when I hear people say disabled people, or I would rather you say person with a disability, because again it's that person first. Again, I don't pull them up all the time.
Yeah.
But it is something that let's go, if we could somehow move on from disabled first.
So they should be person with a disability toilets.
Yeah. Or accessible toilets.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
Accessible
that's actually a
toilets.
much better one.
So disabled toilets has always been one. It's like, if you've got a disabled toilet, call a plumber. Like, you know what I mean?
Ah, good.
So
Mate, save that for your stand-up. You
yeah.
better.
And we should point out, we're going to be lucky enough to have Ollie do a set of his.
Yeah.
He said you're an aspiring comedian. Well, hopefully we can give you your biggest platform yet. We've got a
it.
bit of a surprise for you as well coming up.
Cool.
After we learn a little bit about you and hear a set of your comedy.
So, high school was good for you, luckily. How did you go when you finished school into the big wide world? Because that's when it often gets tough for people with disability, isn't it? In terms of like
Yeah.
employment and friendship and things like that.
So I had all those fears coming out of school. I got through school. I had a really tough time in senior school, like VCE or HSC, if you're from a proper state like New South Wales. So I was at surgeries in year 12. I had the surgery to straighten my toes. It didn't work, so I had to go again.
Right.
I missed most of year 12, and that was just hard on me mentally. And I think in all this stuff with disability, it's all, some of it, especially with physical disabilities, we all talk about physical stuff, but I think mental health within that is a big thing that sometimes is overlooked. And I think at that time, my mental health took a bit of a dive, and there was a bit of trauma there. But I got through that. I think that's all.
Sorry to interrupt,
yeah.
man. When you're lying in that hospital bed and all your mates are at school playing footy and going to class, what are you thinking?
I think I figured out pretty young that all you got to do is think this will end. This will be over, as in this experience of the surgery and the recovery. So you just got to get through it. But in the moment, when you wake up and you're in agony and you're on painkillers, but you're still in pain, and your legs are plastered up for the 7th time in your life, and you're 17 and you're not even 18, and you do have that moment of like a why me sort of thing, but also that moves on pretty quick, because you go, well, this is it. You know, let's have they've got some custard there on the, you know, let's have some custard and let's move on, and let's like get on some endone and let's forget about it.
Pretty shit catering in Albury.
Yeah.
Just straight
I was at the Children's. I went to
that's
the
not
Royal
bad.
Children's in Melbourne, so
Not
I was
bad.
there. Met some great people through there, therapists, all that.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I sort of trained myself pretty quickly to go, this will be over. Yeah, and you'll be able to move on. But again, there was a lot of pain there that you just have to deal with, chronic pain that, again, your mates who are playing footy have never seen before.
Talking about that mental health and backtracking there for a second, pretty tough as a teenager to obviously physically to be going through what you're going through, but mentally as well, and not actually having the awareness of what it is. I think mental health for me in the last 2-3 years has really come to the forefront of people understanding anxiety
For sure.
and stress.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, it was a taboo subject, especially for you, because were people afraid to have conversations with you to begin with around your physical attributes, let alone what you're going through mentally?
I think too, yeah, that's a good point, because I think for one of the big mental health things that I struggled with in high school was all my mates playing footy, cricket in the summer. I love sport, so I knew all about the professional stuff. So AFL, NRL. I love cricket, so I would watch all the test matches, all the one days. But all my mates had played junior footy, and I wouldn't play. Obviously couldn't play. And there were times where my mates would like, oh, come watch, be a assistant coach.
No, my one, goal umpire.
Yeah,
Goal umpire.
So
Rack off.
be a goal umpire. And I used to sit there, and eventually I didn't crack, but I eventually told my mate when it was all over, when we were about 18, 19. And I think we got into a conversation about it. And he goes, oh, I always tried to push for you to come to footy, and you could stay at my place, and we would have taken you to footy every week if you wanted to. I said, yeah, and I did it a few times. But I said, that's a lot of trauma there, because I knew all about footy from the next level, but I'd come to school on Monday. I'd know all the stats from all the games of the professional stuff, but I wouldn't know about your games, and that's all you talk about. So I'm definitely, I'm on the out of there. So that was, and being in Albury, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for parasport. I did play a bit of basketball, and that got me to a fairly decent level as a junior. But that wasn't the same. I would have given that up in a second if I could run around and play footy with my mates. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll get it later. So you finish school, and one thing that I love about you is you are a keen advocate to try and help people that are similar to you and I.
Yeah.
When did you look in the mirror and go, that's what I'm going to do?
I think when I saw you first start to get your profile start to go up and up with your tennis, but all separate to that, it was more that you were out there, sort of pushing that wheelbarrow of disability stuff. And I was like, well, we're very similar in terms of our personality, and we're sort of extroverted people. I can do that too, because I knew I had a friend in Albury who is very quietly spoken, very shy, and doesn't have that attribute to speak up. So I was like, well, she can't be the only one. So I thought, well, again, you don't put too much pressure on yourself to be the man to do it, but you definitely have a moment of responsibility to go. And this is when I was about 21, 20. When I was 14, 15, 16, I didn't want to go near. I was out there and social, but I didn't want to be the poster boy for anything. I just wanted to be a normal teenager.
That's very nice. Thanks, brother.
It's going to be an awkward question, but you spoke about it then. But how much did Dylan mean to you, in your early 20s, coming up and seeing somebody similar? Can you break that down?
And I think another one is Kurt Fernley. He was a
same person.
Yeah. Same bloke. I don't know if anyone knows that. Same bloke. Double sport. 3 sports. So I met Kurt when I was at 15. That was the sort of initial moment when I was like, okay, here's a guy doing things. Maybe at some point I could do things, but at the time I was also I don't want to, I wasn't in denial about my disability. But when I was at uni, I lucky enough went to university, moved away from home. I saw Dill sort of really start to get moving with the tennis as well. And I thought, here's a guy doing it. And I remember I was sitting in my uni econ at my apartment. You came back and won the gold medal in the doubles at Rio, and I missed like 2 classes because you went so long. I was like, fucking hurry up and win. So I want to go. I have to go.
Was it Wagner?
Yeah,
me and Heath beat Wagner.
Yeah, Wagner.
David Wagner.
Yeah,
my favourite Paralympic tennis player.
So I remember sitting there, and my roommates came out, and I was yelling. I was like, because I again love sport. I was just into it, and I remember sitting, and they go, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. What are you yelling about? I was like, come watch this. So I had like 6 people around the TV going, look at this. They should have lost. They should have lost. And it's still going. And I rock up to class 2 hours later, and they're like, where you been? I was like, I had more important things to do. So I think that was the initial moment. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but it's got to involve this. It's got to involve being out there, being a personality, just sort of, an advocate for people that can't be an advocate. I've got to do something.
Well, we love you for it.
And it's not about what you do. It is about what you do, but it's more so about what you say.
Yeah.
So when you're in that moment, and I think that's why you're great. And I don't know if I was encroaching on you then, Gussie, if you want to ask. But so you decided to go, all right, I want to do this. Why did you pick comedy as your route?
So when I first started stand-up, it had nothing to do with being a disability advocate, because I was like, I don't want it to be a TED Talk.
Yeah, good, man.
Like, it's got to be jokes. So if that joke's about my disability, that's great. But if it's also about me getting bread at the shops, then that's fine too.
Mhm.
Like I'm not doing a TED talk. There's got to be punchlines. And I literally started stand up because I was coming home from a night out at uni when I was about 20, blind drunk. Like I shouldn't say blind. That's a bad word on this podcast.
No, we
we-
figured out.
We asked someone
thanks
who's
for
blind.
asking.
They love it. They follow
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
All right, so
we
we
had
can-
Ben on in episode 2,
Yeah.
and he said it's all,
Yeah, it is
all
fine.
good.
So I was blind drunk, and I saw a poster.
You're the only person who can say I was spastic as well.
Yeah, that too. One of my favourites is I've started saying I was Hawking drunk, Stephen Hawking drunk.
Oh shit. That's close.
You can say it. I
Yeah,
couldn't.
yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely
I'm getting
can't.
away with blind drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's your limit. Gus.
That's my limit.
So I remember I was coming home. I was in a cab, saw a big poster for the Wollongong Comedy Club, and I thought, I love comedy. I'll definitely go and watch some gigs as a punter. And then I thought, my mum says I'm funny. Like I might give this a go. So I got home 4 a.m, emailed, looked up Wollongong Comedy. Shout out to the Wollongong Comedy guys, Stu, who gave me my first gig.
Nice.
So I got on there and I said, I want to do comedy. How's it work? Open mic. What's the go? He goes, don't have an open mic, but come to the pro show and I'll squeeze you on. And
Wow.
I was like, all right.
Straight in.
And he goes, here's 3 dates. Pick one. I picked the furthest one from the day I was emailing him because I was like, I need time. So 6 weeks. He goes, see you in 6 weeks. And that was 4.5 years ago.
Wow.
So I did my first
How'd
gig.
that first set go?
It went well enough for me to do a second set.
Okay,
yeah, so
Well, before we get you to do, hopefully, your biggest audience with your own gig, we do have a bowl of uncomfortable.
Can I just ask one more?
Of course you can.
yeah.
So you're a confident man on stage, but I got to ask you, there's parts of life that are tough having a disability, things like dating.
Yeah.
How do you go in that sphere?
That has been difficult.
Probably the thing you most worry about.
Yeah.
Me too.
At the time when I was mid-teens, that was something that was probably a bit of a subconscious worry. I thought, it'll happen like any kid. If you meet a girl, you meet a girl. And if you meet someone, it works out great. And then when I sort of started to hit like adult, 18, 19, go out trying to have, and you went, this could be a issue. Like this could be something. And I remember I sort of, even until 7 months ago, I used to think, I don't really worry. I'll just do my thing. I'll travel. I'll be single. And then it sort of hit me. I had a bit of a breakdown. I was like, this actually meant a lot to me, trying to meet someone. And I couldn't do it. I had a few dates that either they didn't go anywhere because we just didn't get on as people.
Yeah,
but also,
personalities.
but also there were a couple where it was like, this is a problem. I didn't know how to handle your disability. And again, it wasn't saying I can't date you because you're in a wheelchair, but there were times where, and again, as someone, you don't want to come in on the first date and like spill your guts and be like, okay, so what are your problems with disability? Do you have anything uncomfortable about? But sometimes you don't even get to the,
You wish they did. But
yeah. Sometimes it's like, if you just have those, because
That's what this podcast is for.
all the Tinder convos, all the stuff like that, they would say, it doesn't bother me.
And
And
so you're open about it, and you've got a photo of you in a wheelchair on
I've
your
had me
Tinder
a photo
profile?
of me and Dylan.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
that's his lead photo.
Yeah, it is. I'm,
me
not,
and him.
I'm not even joking. It is.
Okay.
And I've
He
had,
uses me for Tinder.
I've had a few matches. I did get rid of it eventually because I had a few matches where girls would match with me and they go, I only match with you because you must know Dylan. And I was like, I don't know Dylan. I'll tell you one story. I was in Melbourne a while back and just cruising around the city and this girl comes up to me and goes, I love your work. It was awesome to see you win the Australian Open.
Oh.
And I was like, at a moment, I'm like, what do I do here? Do I fess up and say, not me? And then, or do I go, yeah, it was tough.
right.
And I did it. And she goes, that gold medal too at Rio. I said, yeah.
Oh, God.
Heath and I got it done.
You've been killing it. You're the lead actor in the Remove the Barrier campaign, something that we did to try and help people with a disability get a job. Is it true that you referred to yourself as the wheelchair Brad Pitt?
Look, that was what you referred to me as, but I'll claim it.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I prefer Cooper, as in
Okay,
Bradley.
Bradley.
Okay.
Or
We've all got
Efron.
our tastes.
Yeah, so
Last question. It's a bowl of uncomfortable. It
Yeah.
kind of leads from your dating life. We have people who tweet us, they Instagram DM Dylan and I, and they ask us questions that they don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable asking you in person. And someone wanted to know, have you ever had sex?
yes, I have.
Hey.
How was it?
The first time it was, as I think for a lot of people, it wasn't good.
Okay.
Because
And
you're
the
trying-
build up, the nerves and that?
Yeah, because you're like, how am I? There is a moment where you're like, can I physically? I mean, it all worked
Yeah.
down there.
Great.
Which is awesome because some people it doesn't work. in that typical way. So it's like, it all works. That's awesome. And that was
Well, at least you have an excuse. Sometimes I try and tell my girlfriend, I'm like, spasms
Yeah,
from,
yeah.
you know, it's
But-
not me.
and it was that first, especially that first even couple of times was difficult. And I think for me, there has been points where I've been on dates and I've kind of backed off as well because I've gone, like, I don't know how I'll keep them interested
Okay.
long term. So it's like, I'll just go on a few dates, try and hook up with them and then back away because then that way.
If they come back to you, you know that, you know.
Yeah, even not, I'll just go, look,
Sure.
I'm a one-trick pony. Like, it's, yeah.
All
So there is that is tough. So
You got other tools.
yeah. So that's,
Well,
I'm figured that out too.
Good.
Ollie, do you know what ladies love? A guy with a sense of humour. And up next, we're about to see, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're about to see a dramatic scene change. If you're listening to this on the podcast, what we're about to do is press stop. We're going to bring in an audience. We're going to have a spotlight on you. You're going to have your own one-man mic stand, and you're going to give us your best comedy performance to hopefully your biggest audience. You up for it, Ollie?
I hope
And
it's good.
One of the secrets is one of the people in the room is actually Jerry Seinfeld.
We did-
That's not
Just in case you didn't
Yeah, he's
know,
on
don't-
warm up.
you
He's
go.
on-
Try-
yeah.
We
All
tried
right.
to get Husey, but he charged
He's
us.
too
so-
touchy. We're going to
Yeah.
charge us. Here we go. Here's the dramatic change. Dramatic scene change has been happening. We have got an audience in the Podcast One studios for Ollie. You're on a little handheld there, mate. You're a bit nervous. How you feeling?
I'm pretty nervous, but
Can I just say, I'm excited.
Yeah.
This is legit, bro.
yeah.
And you have some of the biggest names in radio, some big dogs in the room, all right?
Yeah.
So if this goes well, you could take my job.
And if it doesn't, I'm over. It's over.
All right. Let's do. Is there anything you need to kick off, or you're away?
You can just introduce me. Let's do it.
All right.
We are with Ollie Hunter, whose name of his comedy show is
It's Oliver Hunter.
Sit Down Comedy.
Yeah,
There
there
you go.
we
That's
go.
it.
Yeah, that's it. It's original. Yeah. So we'll do it.
Go.
Go.
And it's great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. It's an awesome podcast, awesome studio. I love being anywhere that has an accessible toilet, disabled toilet. So good on you, because it's a legal requirement. So I'm just pumped to be it has toilet. The ironic thing about a disabled toilet, only toilet big enough to run around in. So if you want to get in there, maybe do some star jumps, a bit of a workout, go for it. Actually, no, piss off, guys. It's my toilet. All right, I hate it when people use it, guys. People use it for 3 reasons I've figured out in my life, and a lot of it's in the nightclub, in the bar, in the pub. So I'll be knocking on the door. First reason, knocking on the door, and then a group of girls will just come out. All right, it's not a conference room, girls. Piss off. All right, you can't go in there and talk about your trip to Europe and how you're gonna find yourself. Get out of my toilet. Second reason, and this is a new one, guys. I found this out the other week. A guy comes out and says, "So sorry, bro. That one has better toilet paper."
Oh.
Like who's shitting in nightclub toilets? Like at what low point in your life have you got to that's like it's 2 a.m. it's in revs, let's do a shit. Like what are we doing? Third reason, guys, you're in the nightclub, you're in the bar, you met a girl or a guy, and you thought, I can't wait till I get home. We can't wait. Got to go on the toilet, bit of sexy time, bit of how's it going, and I'm fine with that. That is the one I'm fine with.
Okay.
But all I ask is, can I be involved? I'll hold the camera. Like, I just want to be involved and be part of something. Yeah, it's a weird one, guys. They use the toilet. But people get weird with disability stuff, and I guess I understand why, but also there are times where I'm like, why is this a problem? Like I get apologised to a lot, which I find weird. I was in the shops the other day, and a woman just comes and taps me on the shoulder and goes, "I'm so sorry for what's happened to you. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. So sorry for what's happened to you." It's like, what? My life's great. I have a pretty good life. I know pretty cool people. Like, it's all good. Like, you're the one wearing socks and thongs. Like, you should be apologising, all right? Like, commit to the shoe. That's all I'm saying. You've socked, now shoe. You've opened your mind to the shoe. Let's do it. But yeah, I've been through a lot with disability that other people, other kids didn't go through. Like, I had a lot of surgeries growing up, and I had one actually recently last week. I had an investigation of the bladder, guys.
Oh.
Investigation of the bladder. One I hadn't had before. And I was talking to the surgeon, and he said, "Look, we're going to put a camera in your bladder. We're going to have a look around, see what's going on there." I had some problems. nothing too big, but he goes, we're going to have a look around. And I thought, all the surgeries I've had, guys, you would think I'd know a lot about the human body. Turns out that's not true. I sucked at biology. So I said, oh, where's you going in? Like going in through the groin? He goes, no, that's the heart.
Oh.
And he goes, we're going through the eye of the penis.
Oh, hey.
Like, when did we get I didn't know we were getting optical. And he goes, no, eye of the penis. And guys, if you don't know what that is, that's a dick hole. We're going straight up the dick hole. And I said, oh, we're having a local anaesthetic. He goes, no, we're having a numbing gel.
Oh.
And we're putting a camera up there, and then we're pulling that out. We're going to catheter up there to drain it, and then after that, we're going to pressure thing to check the pressure of you when you pee. And by the third pressure one, guys, not a lot of numbing. Not a lot of numbing. And he explained everything really well. He was like, no, this is all good. It's how it's all going to work. This is what this does. And everything was very formal and very knowledgeable, and he's a good surgeon. And then he comes in just as we were about to start. He goes, oh, I just want to check, 6th of the 1st, 95 is your birthday. Your name's Oliver Hunter. I said, yeah. He goes, oh, 6th of the 1st, 95, that's my birthday. I feel like we have a connection. I don't know about you guys, but when someone's about to stick a camera up your bladder, up your dick hole, connection's not the word you want to be hearing. You just want to be not looking at each other. And then it's on a camera, so he's like, oh, do you want to watch while it's going on? No, I don't. I've done a lot of things in my life at 24 already. Watching a camera up my bladder is not one of them. But no, I have travelled a lot, which is awesome. And I think I'm very lucky to have done that, to have the capacity to do that. And I was in America a couple of years ago, and a guy comes up to me in the pub, in the bar, and just says, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, what happened to you? And I was like, oh, well, I've had 15 beers. I've lost a shoe. And of course I know what he meant. And I said, no, man, I got cerebral palsy. I was born with it. It's a condition. Nothing to get too stressed about. We'll just have a beer. We'll move on. And he goes, oh, well, that's not so bad. Could have been worse. You could have been in a bike accident.
Oh.
Like, I know guys that are in bike accidents. What I meant to ring them up and go, guys, you suffered the most. Like, you've won. Congratulations. But yeah, it's a weird time. One of my other favourites is and I'll finish on this. I had a girl come up to me in the nightclub because I was killing her on the dance floor, just crushing it, being a weapon. And she comes over and she goes, oh my God, I've always wanted to hook up with a guy in a wheelchair. I thought, Make-A-Wish Foundation, I also make dreams come true. That's it, guys. Thanks very much.
Very good.
Hunter!
Hunter!
Well, thank you very much for being our latest guest on the podcast, ListenABLE. We appreciate your time, mate. Well done.
Thanks, guys.
Well done. Woo!
She's single, ladies.
Yes, I am.
There you go.
Tweet Dylan and he'll pass it on.